you so much for that input. Now, I think this is the last session probably. What we are looking at is final treatment and disposal options. Uh, Yesterday, you would have heard Dr. Chandrababu talk about burn and non-burn technologies. There might be a slight overlap of those things also here. So let's. Can anybody give me a feedback as to what was what Dr. Chandrababu spoke on burn and non-burn technologies? I want the participants to give me a slide, at least main points, what you take away home, take home points.
Yesterday he discussed
about
about
that.
Yes.
yesterday we discussed about the burn and non-burn technologies, infraction, plasma pyrolysis, autoclave, like that. Burn
Okay, it was
technologies,
basically on the technology, right?
right, ma'am?
Okay. Now, how many of you are there in the hospitals working? I want to know once the.
Myself,
Okay, thank you so much for that. Once the waste is being segregated at the point of generation in the wards, how do you basically transport it from the point of generation to the temporary storage point?
through a transportation, just like trolley.
You use a trolley. I mean, what about the bags? The liner bags are how are they tied?
Through a plastic tape.
Plastic tie, yeah. You use a separate plastic tie to tie it, or how do you do it?
It is a known. Once you tie the bag, it is not possible to open it
Okay,
again.
you tie the bag with loose ends. Now, let me ask you: will the contents how much fill the bag will be? How much full the bag will be? Is it completely full or how?
Three
Three
fourth, ma'am.
fourths full.
Two-third full.
2/3 full. Okay. Somebody said 3/4 full. Okay. So ideally, if you're transporting, you need to have it 3/4 full. Tie the ends or use a tie. And is there anything else you do it before giving to the common treatment person? I want to reiterate this point because most of us are not practicing this. That's the reason why I'm telling this. What do you do? Anybody who has any idea as to what is done in the hospital or within the hospital premises before giving it to the before handing over the waste to the common treatment facility person?
First we store it a storage palace
Ah,
because it is not possible to hand over daily to the CTF.
okay,
So
fine.
we
So
store
how
it
long can you store this waste, sir?
2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days. Okay. Now, before handing it over, is there anything that you do?
Yeah, some actually my facility is very small, but if
No
I
problem.
there is somewhere pre-treatment is necessary to hand over the
Okay.
facility.
Even after pre-treatment only, you will send it to the storage point, na?
Yeah,
Temporary storage. Okay. Let me ask you straightforward. Do you have any, uh, uh, you know, tracking mechanism? Barcoding, is it done?
no man.
No. Anybody else who does the barcoding?
Ma'am, in Delhi, the barcoding is done. The person who comes to collect the
Uh,
disposable,
uh-huh.
and he does the barcoding. He gives us a barcode.
Okay, that is from the common treatment facility person. He does it, is it?
Right, ma'am.
Right. Then do you have any tie-up with them in the sense for the barcode also? Because we are asking
We
in
can
more.
track it if we want to, but as such, we are not doing it.
Okay.
We simply he also tells us, gives us um, the weight of the
Mm-hmm. Of that bag.
of the
Whichever your
bag
colored bag
and
that you are
yeah,
giving.
which color bag and the weight of the bag and the
Ah,
barcode is
ah,
shared by him.
ah.
We are not tracking it, but we daily have a barcode given by him.
Okay, you do have a daily barcode. That is, where is it stuck, madam? Can I get the information, please?
What, ma'am?
The barcode sticker.
On the top of this, where the bag is closed.
Okay, there you are sticking one. And do you have a copy with yourself, or how do you do it?
Yes, ma'am. We have a copy with us.
Oh, you have a copy with you also. So
Right.
that means to say, when he takes that particular, so there are two things, like how we have our, when we swipe our card, sometimes you have the customer copy and the other person, like that two copies are made, one is given to you and one is stuck onto the bag and it is taken. Ma'am, has anybody had any ideas what is the advantage of using this barcoding system?
The advantage of the barcode would be that we'll know that it is disposed of at a proper site only,
Okay.
and it is not thrown anywhere if you want to track it down. Moreover, the uh, while doing the audit also, we
Huh.
know that how much waste has gone
Uh,
and how much we have been charged for it.
yes. So to keep track, now one thing let's all understand, nothing comes free, and even your waste treatment also, you're basically paying it. Uh, for treating your waste and also disposing of it. Now let us understand, what do you mean by disposal, ma'am? Anybody who knows what exactly disposal means? Any idea? Nobody? What is the meaning of disposal?
The waste
See,
collected in
according,
the store,
huh? Could you repeat?
ma'am, the waste collected in the storage room, it
Uh,
is transported to the CBWTF, and there it
okay.
is disposed. There it is disposed
Okay. So
by the.
let me clarify this. According to the dictionary meaning, the action or process of getting rid of something is disposal. You got it, sir? Getting rid of something is disposal. My
Yes, ma'am.
professor, yes, my professor always used to say, if the waste from my house is thrown into the neighbor's house, is also disposal. Okay, so now with biomedical waste management, I cannot do this. I have to hand it over to a authorized person who is authorized to treat it and then dispose it so that it does not cause harm either to the environment or to the human health. That is the first thing what the rule says. Your mechanism should be such that neither the environment is harmed nor is the human health harmed during the process of treatment and disposal of biomedical waste. So this is what BMW rules of 2016 also say that. Now, my objectives of this session is, at the end of this session, I would expect that you would at least know various disposal mechanisms or options that are available for biomedical waste and the advantages and the disadvantage of the disposal options. Okay, these would be my contents. Okay. The final treatment and disposal would be to reduce the potential hazard posed by biomedical waste while endeavoring to protect the environment also. That would be our final objective of it. So the idea is we need to reduce the amount of pollutants that are released whenever we are treating any of our waste for that matter, including biomedical waste for that. So, what are the options that we have? We have burn technologies like incineration and plasma pyrolysis, and we also have non burn technologies like thermal processes that include microwave, hydroclave, autoclave, and circulating hot air urns. Then we have chemical processes, we have mechanical processes, and we also have biological processes. Uh, these are the different treatment options that are available under the rule. For us, even biological processes have not been given a green signal from the biomedical waste management rules to the extent what my knowledge goes. Please correct me if I am wrong. So, for autoclave, Mike, there are certain waste that needs to be pre-treated. Can anybody tell me what are the waste that have to be pre-treated? All laboratory waste,
blood bags,
blood bags,
laboratory wastes,
all laboratory wastes. Why
laboratory
does that?
wastes,
Yes.
culture stocks,
Mm-hmm.
culture microbiological culture stocks, lab
Yes.
waste. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Sample container remainings of samples.
Mm-hmm. All these need to
That
be
four categories.
pre-treated. Yeah.
Pre-treated.
How do you pre-treat them? There are different mechanisms for pre-treatment also.
Microwaving,
Okay, one thing
microwaving
you
and
can use,
autoclaving.
either you can use a microwave, or you can use an autoclave, or you can also use chemical processes wherever it is feasible. Now, whenever we are using chemical processes, we need to understand one thing. What is the final disposal mechanisms for it? If finally, if it is going to get incinerated, then your chemical disinfectants should not have chlorine in them. If you are using any of the chlorine based or halogen based disinfectants, you should not be using any of them, because you may add on to the persistent organic pollutants which will be released when there is a burn technology that is used with incinerator when it is incinerated. So therefore, I would prefer that your pre-treatment, you should also know what will be the final disposal mechanism, so that you can adapt your pre-treatment accordingly. Okay, anybody is using deep burial in your places? Is any of the common treatment facility or any of the hospital, a small hospital or a primary health center, is using a deep burial mechanism as disposal mechanism? Anybody from Odisha except Bhubaneswar? Any of the participants from Orissa? Not from Bhubaneswar, because I know Bhubaneswar is connected to a common treatment facility.
In Bolangir also we have a CBWTF now.
Oh,
Earlier we
when
were
did it
using
start,
deep
sir?
burial.
When did it start in Bolangir?
It is some 4 to 5 months.
4 to 5 months. Before 4 to 5 months, where did you dispose of your waste? I know Bolangir is a
We
district headquarters. You have a
yeah,
pretty huge hospital there.
yeah, we are co-located with one medical college.
Yes,
So
new one.
where this ma'am?
It's a
New
new
one,
medical
yes.
college.
Yes, it is a new medical college.
Mhm.
Earlier, we had our containment zone having 12 pits, out of that, 9 deep burial pits and 3 for sharp disposal.
Sir, is
So
there a river
now,
flowing next to
no,
your
no,
deep
no,
burial?
no,
Not in
no
Bolangir?
river flowing. No,
No
no,
river.
there is no river in Bolangir itself.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir. So, how deep did you dig, sir? Or how deep was the deep burial pit?
It is some uh, 6 feet like that.
Okay, 6 feet.
Exactly.
So have you observed how they disposed of the waste in the deep burial pit?
Yes, ma'am. They were
Can you?
putting all this. They were putting and after just disposing inside the deep burial, soil and this
Lime.
lime is
Ah,
covered. Then it was again this waste was put there like
mm,
that. Once it is filled,
mm.
earlier we had 12, and once it was completely filled up, again 12
Okay.
uh, were
So
prepared.
okay, this is one disadvantage what we have with this kind of deep burial mechanism. Once it is filled, that's it. You are not going to reuse it or do anything with it. You have to find another deep burial and a
New.
place for another deep burial pit. So one
Yes,
doubt, in any places, if the water level or water level, groundwater level is very high, how do you manage if there is deep burial, if you have to do deep burial in such places? Is there a mechanism how we can man? What happens? What sort of waste is basically given put into a deep burial pit?
all this waste in the
Yes, all the waste
yellow
in the
bin
yellow, all that can be, all that is incinerated actually goes into the deep burial
deep
pit,
burial.
right?
And the sharps
So
also we are having sharp pits.
sharps also you have sharp pits.
Sharp pits.
Yes. So before putting anything into the incinerator, what are the things that we need to keep in mind? No recyclable should go into an incinerator,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And if you
Yes.
are and anything which is pre-treated with chlorine or halogen based disinfectant should not be put into a incinerator. Preferably what goes into the incinerator should not be pre-treated with a halogen based disinfectant. There are other disinfectants which you can still use, which can be disinfected and then used. So that is one dictum what you said. Any pressurized canister should not be put into the incinerator. So our segregation really plays a major role here. If our segregation is bad, what will happen is your final treatment mechanisms, finally once that is treated, what will be left over is nothing but ash in the incinerator. What will happen to the incinerator when there is a mix up of waste is that the efficiency of the incinerator would come down, and thereby you're compromising the environment whenever you are mixing up of waste. That is what we need to remember whenever we see at your point, at the point of generation, we may think it is only one thing which is getting mixed up, but this one will keep adding at various places and become a quite a mixture of waste. And that's where, when it is the treatment with the incineration is considered, it compromises the efficiency of the incinerator and thereby creating pollution that is possible, and which will again in turn cause a problem to the human health. So how so when it comes to incinerators, these are the things where you can use human anatomical waste, animal anatomical waste, soiled waste, expired or discarded drugs, chemical waste, discarded linen or mattresses. These are the things which are put into the incinerator. Now, there is something called as waste to energy. If the calorific value of the waste that is there is high, then it can also be used as a raw material, or it can be used in high-end incinerators or rotary kilns, which can be used for burning, or the kilns for manufacturing of cement. All right, so these are the things when you look at for the incinerator. Now what we should not put in an incinerator or in an yellow bin is that any aerosolized containers, any of the heavy metals like mercury, or any of the chlorinated plastics. So these are the things which we should not put in the incinerator. The only reason is it is only going to compromise the um, efficiency of your incinerator. So this, or if, when it comes to plasma pyrolysis, it burns most of it, and what you may not really have any much that is remaining when it comes to plasma pyrolysis. But by and large, in general, in our country, most of the common treatment facilities are having an incinerator. I think yesterday Dr. Babu would have told you about the different kinds of incinerators that are there in terms of single chamber, double chamber, the venturi scrubber, the fittings that are there to prevent air pollution would have already been dealt with, sir. So I will not go into any such details. Our idea here is what we put in the incinerator, it basically burns, the volume is reduced, most of the pathogens are killed, all that is remaining is nothing but your ash. Now, but in this ash, how should I dispose of this ash? Is that I mean, is that dangerous for us to handle it? Can that be used for anything else? Any comments, please, on this? Anybody? What do they do
That
with the
can
ash? Yes.
that
Make a
can be used for
put there.
landfills.
It,
Ma'am, we will make a ash pond and we'll dispose the ash in the ash pond, and then
uh-huh. Could you repeat? I could not understand what both of you were.
usually they are preparing a ash pond, and
Mhm.
putting the ash into it, and then they're covering it.
Okay, what they do with most of the ash is that they are, if there is a toxic chemical TSDF, toxic substance disposal facility within the state, it is actually disposed of in that. They are putting it into the landfill. Okay, that is what happens to most of the ash. So what is the disposal mechanism is, one is the final treatment is the incineration. Disposal is that ash is finally sent to a landfill, that is a secured or a sanitary landfill. It cannot be sent to an ordinary landfill. When we say sanitary landfill, what does that sanitary landfill mean? Any idea what's a sanitary landfill? What's a landfill? Okay, in simple terms, let me tell you, whatever waste that is given to a landfill, depending on the characteristic feature of that land, of the waste that is there, if it is acidic, they neutralize it, or they make it little less harmful to the environment, or make it into compounds which are less harmful, and then it is buried into in the land. But the difference here is, before it is buried or which is kept inside the land, the whole bottom of that particular pit is basically covered with a high density plastic, so that even if it rains or even if there is water that comes, water when it passes through this landfill site will not enter the water table. So we call that as leachate. Even the leachate also will not enter into the water table or contaminate it. That is what is a sanitary landfill. What happens in open dumping, which is the most common practice, that what we have is that it is thrown open to the air or to the atmosphere there. It can be accessed by any animals or birds, and it is prone to any of the natural things that is there, right? It can burn. There are chances that there is auto combustion that can happen. Or if it rains, what happens with the rainwater? The rainwater would go seep in, and the same contaminated rainwater with the heavy metals or the pathogens would also be a part of the uh, upper level of the water table that we can get or we have access to. Okay, so that is the reason why we should not be throwing or we should not be dumping any of these heavy metals into the land. It should always be sent to a sanitary landfill. Or if you have a facility where toxic substances disposal mechanism, TSDF as what we have, it can be sent there. Now, can we come back to our non-burn technologies? What are the things that we can do with non-burn technologies. The non-burn technologies are your microwave, hydroclave, autoclave, and circulating hot air ones, where the thermal process is used. What happens in these hydroclave, autoclave, or a microwave is what happens in autoclave and hydroclave? Can anybody tell me?
The waste is sterilized, the microbes are killed at certain temperature.
So basically, you have pressure and temperature being maintained. Because of that pressure and temperature, whatever pathogen that is there within the waste is combated. That means it gets killed. What will happen to the texture or the characteristic feature of the waste that is there inside? Will the volume of the waste reduce in an autoclave?
No.
No, ma'am.
It may not reduce. Have you seen an hydroclave anywhere? What's the difference between a hydroclave and an autoclave?
In hydroclave, I think water particle in the waste can be accelerated.
So actually in a
And
hydroclave, yes, please go ahead. Actually in an hydroclave, how it is there means it is inside there is two-layer drum there. The out in between the outer layer and the inner layer, steam is circulated. Because of that steam being circulated, the waste is kept within the inner drum. The waste also get heated up, and it keeps moving, and there are blades within that hydroclave. So what happens when this waste that is gets moving inside that hydroclave, the waste gets um, they break it into pieces. As a result, the small pieces also, whatever is there, gets heated up because of the steam circulation that is happening outside, and the quantum of the waste is also reduced. At the same time, it is made innocuous. It means it is no long most of the pathogens that are there are also killed, and as a result, it will not cause harm either to the human environment or to humans or to environment. Now, what should I do after the waste is completed after autoclaving and hydroclaving? I still have some amount left with me, na? Or rather, the quantum of the waste is not reduced. Where should I send this waste? What should I do with this? So once again, this has to be sent to a landfill or you can bury it. The advantage here is most of it is it could biodegrade and form, uh, and it will not be harmful to either the human or to the environment. That is the only advantage here when we look at autoclave and hydroclave and a autoclave. The advantage of a hydroclave over autoclave is the quantum of the waste is also reduced to a large extent when compared to autoclave. Autoclave, the quantum of waste is not reduced to a large extent. It only renders it sterilized. That's all. There is no pathogen transmission that can happen when it comes to an autoclave. The same thing with microwave. The difference is the mechanisms by which these waste is getting heated up. In autoclave and hydroclave, you have steam or water that is used, boiling process under pressure. But whereas in a microwave, these are microwaves that are sent, and there is a it is very similar to how our home microwaves work, but still the mechanism might be slightly different. There are certain microwaves where shredding happens first and then it is microwave, once again rendering it innocuous, and less the transmission of pathogens is controlled to a large extent. But in all these non-burn technologies, whether it is microwave, hydroclave, or autoclave, the final product is only an innocuous material where the quantum may not have reduced. So this again has to be finally disposed of at a different place. So this is one thing what we need to look for. But when you look at incineration or plasma pyrolysis, what happens there? You feed the incinerator with tons of waste. Finally, how much of ash you are getting is only in terms of kgs. It doesn't run into tons. So that is where there is a difference between incineration, the burn technologies, and the non-burn technologies. Now, when I should not be using a hydroclave, microwave, and an autoclave. Any volatile or semi-volatile organic components, chemotherapeutic waste, mercury, or any other hazardous chemical waste, radiological waste should not be put into any of these autoclave, microwave, or hydroclave. Another disadvantage of a microwave is that it cannot accept any of the or metal objects in a microwave, because there are chances that arcing can happen and it could be dangerous. Now, there are other things like glassware and other reusable instruments or sharps. How do we discard in sharps? What disposal mechanisms we have is only to contain it. There is no way that we are going to get something out of it, or it can be completely destroyed. That cannot happen with most of the sharps what we are using, for the simple reason that the stainless steel that is utilized, or the metal that is utilized in manufacturing the sharps, is of very high quality, and trying to get back any of the metallic parts from these small needles or anything would actually cost more than manufacturing it. It may not be a very it may not work out in terms of financials. So for the time being, what we are doing with sharps is that we are only containing it and keeping it in such a way that it will not cause any injury to anybody, any of the metals for that matter. Glassware right now can be disinfected by using reuse hot air ovens. But what is happening right now is they are actually shredded or made it into smaller pieces, and it can be recycled. So we cannot put any rubber or plastics into hot air ovens, because they may not retain their shapes, and they may cause more issues for the hot air oven. Okay, let me, this we have already discussed. So I'll go into what about this chemical processes, this liquid waste or solids. No, there are certain chemicals which can also be used for disposal mechanisms. Like you have disinfectants, where you can still use disinfectants for disinfecting any of the hazardous healthcare waste. But if you are using these chemicals, your disposal mechanism cannot be an incinerator, especially if it is halogen based. Okay. When it comes to mechanical processes, what happens in mechanical processes? It reduces the volume of waste. However, it cannot destroy the pathogens. So, should be used now. Mechanical processes should be used after disinfection. So, what you see in most of the common treatment facilities is that they first autoclave most of the reusable waste. That means all the waste that you send in the red color bag and in the blue one, whatever is sent is actually disinfected first by using a autoclave, and then it is shredded into pieces, and whatever shredding you get out of it is basically sent to the authorized recycler. This is what happens to all the plastics and rubber that you get out of the any of the biomedical waste that is there. Disinfection can be through autoclave or microwave or chemicals, whatever the common treatment facility person uses. So mechanical treatment or shredding, uh, this has to be done after disinfection, not before disinfection. But because if you do that before, it will only lead to spreading of the disease. Now, there are biological processes also that were there to decompose. You can decompose anatomical waste, pathological waste, or any other um biodegradable ones, which are slightly less when it compared to our biomedical waste. Along with organic waste or the kitchen waste, you can also use this biological processes. But however, these biological processes have not been very greatly used in most of the places. They've only under experimental conditions. They have experimented with certain things in certain places, but all over the place they have not been able to implement these biological process. Now, deep burial, what I was talking about, uh, what are our final disposal option? All the what I spoke right now was all the treatment options. Now, final disposal option is one, give to a registered recycler. There's something called as encapsulation, then a sanitary landfill. So these are our final disposal options what we have. So what do we mean by encapsulation? Who's a registered? Okay, we'll go into who's a registered recycler. Anybody? What is recycling here? What is recycling? This is your principles: reuse, reduce, recycle. Can somebody tell me what is recycling? Hello? Did I put you all to sleep?
No, ma'am.
No. Thank you. Can somebody tell me what is recycling?
I think after changing the shape or to make something new from old things.
Okay. That means the previous form is completely destroyed.
Huh.
It is completely destroyed. What do we do with most of the plastics is that we basically autoclave
To
it,
recycle to
and
another
then
thing.
when we shred it, now it becomes small pellets, and these small pellets are basically sent to a authorized recycler. That is a raw material for him to create some more plastics or a different set of things.
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't resemble the one what it was
Yeah.
basically made of. It completely goes over, turnovers, turns into a completely different thing.
New
That
one.
is recycling. Okay, the final
Okay, ma'am.
disposal mechanisms what we have for biomedical waste is one is a registered recycler. What do I mean by a registered recycler? In the sense, these persons are registered from the State Pollution Control Board that they can receive such items and
For
process it.
recycling.
For them to register themselves, probably they need to follow certain set of procedures and set of mechanisms for them to do such kind of things. This is my understanding. If somebody has something more than what I know, they may please share it with the group. So this most of the time what happens in our setups, I'll tell you, is from our experience what I have observed. Most of the plastic items are what your IV bottles, IV tubings, your catheters, and that Eurosac bags. These are the maximum what is generated in most of the hospitals. So all these are very safely collected and then given to our kabadi wala. What will happen if I do that?
Without any sterilization process, they may be make use for recycling to make
Can you repeat,
any
madam?
other. Without undergoing any sterilization or cleaning process, then they may be changed
Yes. Uh,
uh, to another
what,
form means recycling, like
yes.
new for making buckets, cups, or food
Yes.
containers, etc. I think so.
What am I basically asking? What am I proposing in the sense I am not sending any, it is not being disinfected. Some of them probably may disinfect, but I am not sure whether this kabadi
You
wala,
have
I'm exposing this kabadi wala, whoever is there, for certain pathogens. And one more thing, I'm not sure whether this fellow will destroy that and give it to something else, or whether he's going to do reuse the same thing in a different format.
Oh, of course.
We simply put a cover to it and come back into the market. That is
Okay,
the worst
syringes.
form that might happen. Okay, so whether
Okay.
can you please mute, ma'am? Okay, next thing is your encapsulation. What is this encapsulation? Any of the healthcare waste in municipal land, disposal of healthcare waste or biomedical waste in municipal landfills is not advisable. If there is no other option, then maybe you can do it. When it says these encapsulation means whatever waste that you get is actually filled into a uh, high density plastic uh, barrels and then contained. You don't need to send, say for example, whatever comes out of your what is that, autoclaving and hydroclaving. When there is no other option for you to dispose of, you just need to contain it in a polyethylene or metallic drums, so that you basically are not sending out this waste to some other landfill or municipal landfill, because there are chances that it can still contaminate. So this is encapsulation is nothing but containing it in one particular container which is meant for such kind of waste. Now, even for sharps, what do we? This is encapsulation. The containers are boxes. Then they are filled with some materials called as bituminous sand or cement or mortar or clay, and after this dried, they are sealed and sent to sanitary landfill sites, not ordinary landfill sites. So inertization is another thing what we do it. Inertization is mixing of waste with cement and other substances before disposal to minimize the risk of toxic substances contained in the waste migrating to surface water or groundwater. Basically, this is suitable for pharmaceutical waste and incineration ash. Even for incineration ash, what we do is inertization. Now, this is what is a sanitary landfill, what the picture you are looking at. What I was trying to say is the black one, what you see is a high density polyethylene cover, which basically covers the bottom surface of your landfill so that the lee shade doesn't contaminate any of the groundwater. So what is sent to a landfill is that encapsulated waste, inertized waste, heavy metals, and cytotoxic waste is also sent to a sanitary landfill. So what are my take-home messages? Final treatment may be through burn or non-burn technologies. Use of non-burn technologies will reduce environmental pollution. At a common treatment facility, you have incineration, autoclave, shredder are the final treatment technologies available. In places without an access to common treatment facility, deep burial and sharp pits are the suggested methods of final disposal. Right? Any clarification you would want from me? Anything would you like to ask?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
I have
thank
got
you
a
for
question.
Yes, please. You can ask your questions. Is there any
Ma'am,
clarification?
the glassware
Uh-huh.
before disposal to the registered vendor,
Mm.
uh, that is to be shredded into pieces, or it is to be as such disposed after
Sir,
disinfection.
actually, from the hospital side, you are giving it to a common treatment facility person. At the common treatment facility, they autoclave it.
Yes,
It should be autoclaved, and then some places they shred it for glass, because whenever you shred glass, there are chances of injury that can happen.
yes, ma'am.
So I'm not very sure about it, whether they shred it or not. But ideally speaking, shredding it and then giving it to an authorized recycler is what is the ideal practice as per the rules.
Earlier, ma'am, we were autoclaving in our setup and were giving without any shredding because in we're shredding the plastic items, we're shredding, but the glass
Yeah.
vials like
So
that,
even yeah,
we're just after autoclaving, we're disposing to the vendor.
vendor. Sir, one thing what we need to keep in mind is anything that goes out of our hospital, we should make the chances less that it can be misused by anybody else. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can disfigure your plastics in such a way that it cannot be used for anything else.
Plastics, we're doing shredding, we're
You
having a
Yeah, if
shredder,
you
but
have a
for
shredder, go
small
to
vials,
shred and give it.
the vials, injection vials,
Files, yes.
if we if we'll break that into pieces by a shredder or
No, sir,
the
I don't
small
think we
vials
are
we can
using a
dispose.
shredder. I have my doubts whether we
Yes,
really use shredder for glass. It would only cause injuries, but for plastics, the shredders are used.
yes, ma'am. Plastic we're doing, but glass vials we're doing
As
autoclaving, then we're disposing.
Then we can give it to an authorized recycler for further
Yes,
treatment, further recycling process.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So if there's nothing, can I stop? Sir Panigrahi, sir. Dr. Santosh. No questions. Can I call it a day? Hello. Are there any clarifications or questions? Sir?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I am done, sir.
Students, do you have any query, any questions to ma'am? Or we'll wind up the session? So I think no question from the learner sides. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much once again on behalf of the Regional Center Bhubaneswar, on behalf
Yes,
of
sir.
IGNO headquarters,
Yes, sir.
because today is the last class for this course.
Yes.
So I really thanks on behalf of our regional director, on behalf of our vice chancellor, to taking lot of pain and giving time to Regional Center Bhubaneswar and also IGNO headquarter. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.